as usual, we lead the show here on the Monty Show with a big update on the ACC. The ACC, according to our sources, has a pretty important call tomorrow where they are looking for, quote-unquote, finality in their process of trying to add Stanford, Cal, and SMU. They want it done or they want to move on. And it's very interesting. It seems like there are still 4 no votes at this moment. Now, I'm also told that they will discuss revenue sharing, that they will discuss college football playoff allotments as part of this call. So I think those things very quickly become done. I was also told today by sources in the ACC that, in fact, it is very clear what each one of these 4 knows. The Carolinas, Clemson, and Florida State are looking for. I think this can be worked out. I still believe that we are 60-40 in favor of Stanford, Cal, and SMU joining the ACC. We should get an answer on that tomorrow as the ACC has a call with all of its presidents to put closure on ACC expansion for this year. Jake, I know we say this all the time, and I'm sorry to be redundant, but it's too much of a no-brainer to add Stanford and Cal and SMU for the ACC to say no, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, their strategy of getting closure is absolutely spot on. I mean, you need to put an end to this situation. You need to, just kind of put a cap on it. I mean, it's been dragged out. Clearly, the expansion window for the other conferences has come and gone, and the ACC is dragging its feet for many reasons, and those are important reasons, but ultimately those have come to pass now, and we need to get an answer on this. And I think, yeah, I mean, you would be silly on a surface level to not add Stanford, Cal, and, obviously SMU, given what they're not asking you for, which is money for 7 years, essentially. But ultimately, this situation just needs to get done because the season's here now. Like, it's time to go. Like, all summer we've talked about, if you're still talking expansion by the time week 1 or really in college football, week 0 gets here, you've done it wrong. I mean, you need to just move this along. And I understand that the ACC was sort of the last person at the table. They're picking up the remnants of the Big 12 and the Big 10 picking through the Pac-12 or what was the Pac-12. So I get it. But ultimately, this can be delayed no further. And I think for everyone's cause, even for Stanford and Cal, this thing needs to get decided in the ACC so they can go wherever it is they're going to go.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the interesting part about this is all of the misinformation. It was interesting that one of the sources I spoke to today said that the College Football Playoff Committee is waiting on ACC expansion to make changes for 2024. You heard today that those decisions have already been made. Oh, and then they weren't made. I also thought it was very interesting that ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips was said to have briefed the College Football Playoff Committee on what the ACC was going to do with expansion. It turns out, as we told you, Jim Phillips would not be briefing the College Football Playoff Committee on what the ACC was doing because that decision has not been made yet.
Yeah.
There has been no plan set forward by the ACC presidents and membership for adding Stanford and Cal. And we're in this position, and I feel like it's very similar to what we saw in the Big 12, to your point, the Big 10 and the Pac-12, where all these rumors are flying and this is done and that's going to happen and we're doing this and we're doing that. Nothing happens until the presidents and the ACC say so.
Yeah.
The College Football Playoff Committee is frozen in time. There is no way for the College Football Playoff Committee to act until the ACC says, hey, we're going to move on as we are. We're going to add Stanford, Cal, and SMU. That completely changes the picture for what the College Football Playoff Committee is going to do a year from now. So, yeah, I think you have to read some what's the right way to say it? Use your common sense.
Read between the damn lines, people.
Yeah, when you hear this stuff that Jim Phillips briefed the College Football Playoff Committee, that's not even possible.
Pause, bro. Pause.
It's not even possible. And the hard part is that yesterday people were all up in arms that we exclusively reported that the College Football Playoff Committee discussed the Pac-12 keeping P5 status and what that might look like. Oh, and now everybody is reporting what we reported yesterday, that the College Football Playoff Committee discussed the Pac-12 potentially keeping P5 status.
Right.
And what that might look like. You have to use common sense because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. But the bottom line here is the ACC has a call tomorrow with all their presidents, and they are looking to close the door on this. It's either going to happen tomorrow or it's not going to happen at all, in my opinion. And I think you still have these 4 no's. But I don't think it's in cement. I don't think it's certainly dead at all. I think it's simply a matter of putting pen to paper on how much money Florida State, Clemson, and the Carolinas are going to get from the College Football Playoff.
Yeah, and I think the College Football Playoff is obviously, of course, it's hugely influential. It decides the fate of a lot of different institutions in one way or the other. And I think that, this Pac-12 keeping their P5/A5 status, look, I understand why those 4 schools that remain, the remnants of the Pac-12 want to consider rebuilding that conference. But the reality of the situation is there are not enough P5/P4 programs available to rebuild a conference with. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. There are only so many to go around. So my thing here is that I don't know why the College Football Playoff Committee would give, those 4 schools in the Pac plus the Mountain West P5 or A5 status. Why would you? 70%, 80% of that conference at that point is not P5 members before that conference is put together. So I just don't see a way where you're like, yeah, we're going to merge with the Mountain West, and then we're going to rebrand the Pac-12, and we're going to keep that status. And furthermore, if you're Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, Washington State, I don't even know that that's the best option for you at this point. Because even if you do put the conference together, how long does the conference last? Can you get TV distribution? Dude, there are so many questions. You don't have to ask if the ACC is going to get distribution. You're going to get distribution.
You're going to get distribution.
Yeah. Obviously excluding SMU because of what their proposal is, but you're getting distribution. So that's why I say for Calford, I just think the best option.
Calford.
Yeah, the best option, if the ACC is still available to you, I think is the ACC, but I think it's a very complicated issue.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, this leaves Oregon State and Washington State hanging and twisting. And my guess is that we have not heard from Stanford Cal. And by the way, did anybody notice that SMU has gone radio silent? Not heard from their donors, even though we've reached out to them. Not heard from, the folks that we know in Dallas County. Haven't heard from those folks, which tells me they believe this is getting done.
Yeah.
That's what this tells me. I think SMU, Stanford, and Cal believe this is getting done.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably go that way. Now, what that does for Oregon State and Washington State, man, that's where things start to move very quickly. Because if the ACC adds Calford,
thank you.
If the ACC adds Calford, I don't think there's any doubt that Washington State and Oregon State have to move aggressively. And I think if Stanford and Cal end up in the ACC, I think it's all but over for the Pac-12 brand. I think it is dead on arrival. We are simply putting them on the clock until the season's over, and really until June 30th. That's when the Pac-12 will die. I think it's downhill fast. And again, my sources tell me that Washington State and Oregon State, I think, are heavily in favor of joining the Mountain West. It just financially, those are 2 universities that are in very different places, but they both have debt load. And Washington State is, the word that everybody keeps using is insolvent in sports. I don't disagree with that. I think they're in so much trouble financially in their athletic departments at Washington State. It's going to be very difficult for Washington State to maneuver and add travel dollars to join the AAC, let's say, where you're going to have to travel up and down the East Coast. You're going to have to travel much further east to get to the AAC footprint, to get to Tulane, to get to Charlotte, to get to all of these places that are not Fresno State, that are not Boise State, that are not in your backyard, essentially, that save you time, that save you humanity, and that save you mental health of your student athletes as well as academic issues, it's a no-brainer to work something out with the Mountain West. Now, does that mean it happens? Absolutely not.
No.
I think we've learned a lot of different times that Kirk Schultz, the president at Washington State, marches to his own drum. And a lot of times his drum beat's very different than most people's drum beat.
Clearly.
But I think we are in a very interesting situation. I think that the College Football Playoff Committee, waiting on ACC expansion, tells you that there are multiple layers of planning going on here. That if Stanford and Cal do not get into the ACC, I think the Pac-12 has a very strong chance of surviving. The brand has a very strong chance of surviving.
Why do you say that?
Because it's Stanford and Cal, and I know how much you hate them on the court and on the field. And I get that, dude. You're not wrong. Mm-hmm. Those are some power brands, dude. Like the money that you make being in business with Stanford and Cal.
No question. The money's there.
From a research perspective, from an educational studies perspective, from a partnerships perspective, they make you a ton of money. It's why the Pac-12 and all of its members wanted to stay together. Ultimately, they did not, but they wanted to stay together. Stanford and Cal make you money, and if they happen to fall into a 10-win football season, hey, you're cooking with gas. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Stanford and Cal. I think it is an incredibly important time, as we have been in for 3-4 months now. I think this is a historic, never before seen and likely never seen again moment in time in professional sports in this country, and I did not misspeak. College athletics and mainly football are professional sports in this country, and I don't think we've ever seen it like this before.
No, absolutely not. And I think that, it was always going to be a deal where at some point a conference was going to fall apart. I don't think anyone woke up, 2 years ago or a year ago and was like, yeah, the Pac-12 is going to be the one that burns to the ground. But, here we are.
Well,
and I think that you're not wrong about Stanford and Cal having a lot of money. They have a lot of money. But to put a conference back together, I just think that's such a layered proposition. I mean, again, you're talking about, I guess merging with the Mountain West is your best opportunity to put the Pac back together.
Right.
And, hey, if that happens, that's great. But I certainly think you're far from any kind of guarantee of keeping Power 5 status. And, yeah, would that be good for the West Coast? Absolutely. You would unify two conferences. Like, there would be a lot of efficiency in travel and things like that. So I think, look, there's a lot of opportunity with it. But ultimately, I think that these schools have to be selfish right now and do what's best for them. And if for Stanford, that what's best for Stanford is to partner with Cal and get to the ACC, great. If what's best for them is to go independent for 3 years, great. If what's best for them is to go to the Mountain West, then that's great. But I just think that at this point, this has never been seen before, and there's a reason the College Football Playoff Committee is waiting. There's a reason we're not hearing a whole lot, and also there's a reason why the ACC wants to get closure on this thing, because every day you spend unsettled, if you will, not rock solid, moving in one direction, that's another day where you never know what can happen. And I think that's why if you're the ACC, you want to get this thing kind of buttoned up and taken care of.
So, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. Do you get up every morning and when your two troll-like feet hit the floor, do you say to yourself, how am I going to slander Calford today? I know it's only 6 a.m.
Here I am.
But I got to slander Calford somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Stanford and Cal are valuable. Stanford and Cal are the foundation for a rebuilt, reimagined Pac-12 conference.
Pac-10.
Right, sure. I get it, Coach. But my point is, I think Stanford and Cal bring tremendous value. And if you're the Mountain West, it is, in my opinion, in the sources I have spoken to, it is an easy move with Stanford and Cal to rebuild and reimagine the Pac-12 with the Mountain West merging with the Pac-12. That's an easy move. It's a completely different ballgame to tell you the power and the sway that Stanford and Cal have. I was straight up told, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Without Stanford and Cal, what value is left in the Pac-12 brand? And now, as we've exclusively reported on this show and everybody else has now told you, the College Football Playoff Committee has discussed whether or not a reimagined Pac-12 would keep P5 in AQ status, for an AQ meaning automatic qualifier status.
Yeah.
The answer would be no, in my opinion.
How could it be anything other than that?
Without without Calford, I don't see how it could be anything but no from the College Football Playoff Committee.
Yeah, I think what's tough is like the
Calford.
the College Football Playoff Committee, obviously has a lot to consider. I mean, of course, how to reward winning is their main objective, right? I mean, how do we define who's the best team based on strength of schedule and all these other factors? That's their main priority. But secondarily to that, I also think you have to consider, okay, brands like Stanford who have had success. I mean, the true hater of Stanford wants to roll out here and be like, Stanford's never won anything and they suck. And that's just not the case. Stanford has won. Stanford has done things, and they have a great athletic department. Yeah. There's no questioning that. They just haven't won or been relevant in football or basketball for about the last 5 years or so.
But they are, on a regular basis, financially and on the courts and fields, arguably the best athletic department in the country pretty much every year.
Right. And so for the College Football Playoff Committee, the challenge is, okay, Stanford being who Stanford is, a really important figure in college athletics, not just college football, but college athletics. How do we work them in if they're in a Pac-12 Mountain West merger setup? How does that work? Because if you're going to let Stanford in or give Stanford access, then Boise State, Air Force, all these other schools have to have access. And I guess that's fine, because they're never going to beat Georgia. They're never going to beat LSU or anybody in the SEC, but I don't know. I think it's just tricky.
But isn't the gold standard now for competition the Big 12? And you guys are going to be like, you're a Big 12 homer. Go eat at a truck stop.
Yeah.
Listen, I was at a truck stop this morning. Proudly so. Fat ass had a burrito. What do you want from me? Not me, him.
Fat.
But my point is, if you look at the Big 12 and you look at the statistics of the Big 12, they lead all A5 leagues with 52% of their non-conference games against bowl teams from last year. That's got to be just the low watermark where you're playing non-con games against teams that went to bowls last year. This is raising all ships. Raise the tide. Raise the level of competition, because I got to be honest with you guys, I'm over like this Florida-Utah game tonight. This is big boy football. This is an important fucking football game. And I'm tired of seeing, well, Middle Tennessee State has a linebacker that's going to the NFL.
Well,
I'm tired.
Dude,
I'm
we've got
tired
the Nick
of
Saban rant, dude.
I'm tired of Nick Saban losing his shit about their terrible schedule.
These teams that are typically the best teams in their division are really good teams. All right, and you all may be taking the week off, all right, this week, but I'm not. And a lot of people take a lot of things for granted, and I get asked questions like, well, how important is it for the young guys to get to play this week? Well, how in the hell you know they're going to get to play? I mean, what makes you think that you can just assume that they're going to get to play? Because you're assuming that the other team is not very good? They do have a Division I quarterback. He plays like a Division I quarterback, and they're very, very productive on offense, and they do a great job of executing what they do. And if we don't play good against them, you all don't remember the Georgia Southern game, do you? I don't think we had a guy on that field that didn't play in the NFL, and about 4 or 5 of them were first-round draft picks. And I think that team won a national championship, but I'm not sure. And
that never gets old.
Oh, Nick.
And as we talk big-time college football on the Monty Show, all of our college football talk on the Monty Show presented by our good friends at Bucked Up Energy. Let's go, baby. Time to hit the buckshot. I don't know what that is. My point is, I'm ready to roll in college football.
Yes.
So let's pop a buckshot and let's get to work on Utah and Florida. Every day at this time, we hit this buckshot. And I tell you guys, you think this is dialed? Wait, let's get dialed. That's right. 200 milligrams caffeine, bunch of ingredients that make this high-powered energy with quality ingredients that's going to take you through the rest of your day. That's what Bucked Up Energy, that's what Buck Shots are all about. They taste good, and they just do the job. They do what they tell you they're going to do. They give you that mental lift, whether you're trying to play better golf, which I did not do this morning. If you are trying to finish that brief in your law firm, if you are trying to TPS report, if you're trying to figure out your prize picks on the show today. By the way, did anybody notice Dak Prescott? More or less half a passing yard in week 1 in the NFL. Yeah, you might want to go hit that.
Yeah.
My point is, friends, Buck Shots where it's at, because that's what Bucked Up's all about. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Get to buckedup.com. Use the promo code Monty20 to save 20% off at purchase. Also, if you're in Utah, go to any of their Bucked Up stores. I personally shop in South Jordan, the store in Farmington Station, the store in American Park. Amazing. Go in and say, hey, I heard about you guys on the Monty Show. They're going to hand you a free energy drink because you mentioned the Monty Show. I would tell you my favorite this morning, it was confirmed, my favorite is now cherry candy.
You ought to know you bought it.
0 sugar. It tastes amazing. I love Miami. You guys know that. I have it right here on the set every single day. Cherry candy from Bucked Up is the bomb. Can we talk football now?
Yeah, please.
Let's do that. You guys, by the way, you're the best. Please hit the like button.
We're so close, dude. Can we get this done today during the show?
Did you guys see where we are in subscribers?
Come on.
You don't track it the way I do. I'm obsessive over it. We're 155 subscribers away from 30,000.
You got to get stroked.
Come on.
155 subscribers away from 30,000.
Come on.
Come on, let's go.
Let's go.
And if we get to 30,000, Jake is going to give you, 30,000 of something.
Never.
No. If we get to 30,000, we'll give away another Amazon gift card on the show today. We love rewarding you guys. Please hit the like button. We have had over 3,000 people view the show. We only have 88 likes. Let's go. Hit the like button. Our first comment today always comes from the Super Chats. Would an ACC collapse give the Big 12 a better college football playoff voice? The ACC is not going to collapse. And with all due respect, K-Dub, can we just stop talking about the ACC collapsing?
Yeah.
Because until somebody, and whether it's JP Morgan Chase or somebody else, forks over $120 million, and then somehow, some way, the ACC lets them out of their grant of rights, this conference is going nowhere. The grant of rights is lock solid. There's this belief in the fan base that, oh, man, if we talk about the ACC collapsing, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not the Pac-12. What's the significant difference between the Pac-12 and the ACC? Well, first off, Jim Phillips isn't a buffoon. He's not incompetent, and he actually understands how to do business. Jim Phillips is a good commissioner. Number 2, you have real legal teeth in your grant of rights. That grant of rights modeled after the Big 12's grant of rights, written by Bob Bowlesby, amongst others. The ACC's not going anywhere. Oh, by the way, what's the other difference? The ACC's grant of rights runs till like Christ is reborn. So when you see good old JC, son of a Jewish carpenter, walk through the door, that's the day that the ACC grant of rights expires.
In God's name, image, and likeness.
Probably too much. But my point is,
God bless.
That grant of rights isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's 2036 is when it expires. The Pac-12 grant of rights expires in about 10 months. There's huge differences. Stop comparing the ACC and the Pac-12 situations because they are nothing alike. They're not close. They're not similar. There are 0 similarities in those situations. None. Florida State can squawk until they're dead. They're not getting out of the conference. Clemson and North Carolina are not trying to get out of the conference. It's Florida State trying to rally the troops that they just said were stupid and terrible at sports.
And that's how I look at it.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going anywhere. We've got to stop this fantasy land where, everybody's, the Pac-12, the ACC, just the same. Completely different. Completely different. The ACC is not imploding. There is not a pathway for the ACC to implode, you guys.
Yeah.
We just got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Tanner Plummer, son of a Jewish carpenter. That sounds like a new swear word. Cheese and rice.
Damn.
You say cheese and rice. Okay. Mr. Monkey, except that they will collapse. Oh, okay. Well, when they collapse, you let me know. Bryce Martin, ACC may not collapse, but they could have defects if Florida State finds a way to get out. Okay. Okay, Bryce. What's that way to get out?
Not too familiar with that.
They've had the grant of rights in review with attorneys for 18 months.
Damn.
So, and I'm not a rocket scientist. Trollfoot over here isn't either, right?
And go ahead and try me then.
But 18 months with lawyers, I would have guessed
And they can't find nothing?
they'd have found the hole in the Swiss cheese if it was there.
Damn.
They didn't find anything. The other interesting point about this that I always laugh about, where's Florida State's, private money investor? It's going to give them $120 million. Where's Boss Frog? Boss Frog, were you cutting a check for $120 million?
We really did.
Boss Frog, the wealthiest man on this show, and who knew, we're private money guy. So go ahead and just tell me, where's that private money coming from? Do you think $120 million is just growing on trees? You think that's walking around money? You think that's tip money for their caddy? It's not. $120 million makes and breaks Florida State.
Oh, dear. Oh, my.
Where are you getting it? How you paying it back?
I don't know either.
So, and I love you, Bryce, but finding a way out,
With all due respect.
there's no such thing.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. I believe the number's 9 members. Florida State, who just told you everybody else in the conference is terrible at their job and they don't win anything, and Florida State's the whole almighty, the grail, the cheese and rice of the ACC, even though they haven't been relevant for 10 years.
What a strategy. Hold on. What a strategy. So let me get this right. We're gonna take a dump on everybody else in the conference and say that we deserve more money.
The pro rata you deserve, Florida State.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The pro rata they deserve. And then they can't get a deal done, and they find nowhere to go.
Do you understand? Hear me. It's been 18 months. The lawyers can't find a way out. Do you think if Florida State was going to find a way out, that they wouldn't have done that already in 18 months?
How dumb do you think I am?
And then you called all your business partners stupid and terrible at their jobs. Yeah, but why don't 8 more of you hop on board and help us?
Hey, guys.
Here's the other question, just out of curiosity. ACC implodes. Do you think all those schools are P5?
Ooh.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Let me get this right. Stanford doesn't have a home, but you think fucking Vanderbilt is like everybody's All-American? Oh, man. Dude, Greg Skanke he just cannot wait to add Vanderbilt.
Greg Skanke.
Sorry, slip of the tongue. Greg Sankey just cannot wait. Feinbaum cannot wait to save. Vanderbilt's in the SEC, but my point is,
Feinbaum.
Feinbaum can't wait to save Georgia Tech. What do you think Virginia Tech's the first choice on everybody's list?
You're filling in for somebody.
Bad news, Chapel Hill. Do you think your boys at NC State are everybody's All-Americans? They're not.
Oh.
They're not.
Oh.
They're not.
Every conference has their trash,
man.
dude.
Boston College. Oh, man, somebody get Skanky on the phone because Boston College is a free agent. How do we say no?
Hockey program.
And I'm being like, do you think about when you guys talk about this stuff around the water cooler?
Guys.
Hey, man, listen, before we head out on that first job over to the
Hey, guys.
Millers to paint their soffits, we got to talk about the ACC. I think it's imploding today. It's over. Do you stand around
interesting, man.
the not real water cooler, which nobody has anymore?
Otherwise known as the gas tank.
When you and the boys are hanging out at the truck stop about to get your breakfast burritos, is this what you guys imagine? You're like, well, if the ACC implodes, and it will. Well, how's it going to implode? Don't they have a grant of rights? Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
And it's very powerful.
The Pac-12 imploded. You know, Fukushima.
What the fuck does one thing have to do with the other?
Listen, I put pepper on my McGriddle, just like Jerry Jones. Trust me when I say the ACC's imploding. Where do you get this?
Vexes me.
Thank you for derailing the show, Bryce. I appreciate it. Oh, my God.
Okay.
FSU plug. SEC don't care about Virginia. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Nobody
the SEC
cares.
doesn't need Virginia, dog.
Look at Vanderbilt. They're invisible in the. They're invisible. Come on, man. Come on, man. Aaron Wilson. It's arnwilson22 at Gmail. What happened to your? Why are you giving your email out?
Yeah, what are we doing here, man?
I don't get it. I don't get it. Cougar Tracks. Heard the same thing about the Pac, but the Pac. I'm usually
the untrained eye.
I'm usually a docile figure.
That's
okay.
untrue.
That's a lie. That's not what happened with the Pac-12.
No, it's
and
not.
if you think Cougar Tracks, I love you, but if you think you heard the same thing about the Pac-12, then you hang around a bunch of stupid people that don't know anything about the Pac-12, because that's not at all what happened. Hero 75 for $10. If it was 2030, then I would believe. Guys, hey man, listen, it's New Year's Eve, 2029.
Hey guys.
If it were 2030, then I would believe the Florida State could do a buyout of the ACC. But until 2036, the ACC will be alive, and by then, conferences may be ready to go to 20 teams after dealing with 18 and 16 teams. I think the more likely scenario is that ESPN, like the partners on the grant of rights, dissolve it to help themselves. That's the only way That's the only way. And that's only going to happen. I think it's at least 7 years until we have like mega conferences, right? Like until we have, I think the potential is you have to have at least 3 conferences. I think those 3 conferences will have to be probably 30 teams.
Bro.
I don't see any other way around it. Well, in all seriousness, I don't see any way around that. Because you're only going to be growing from here forward. You're only making more money and becoming more prominent.
Yeah.
Who's the next Ohio State?
SMU.
But what happens if, no, it's not SMU. What happens if Matt Rule blows up Nebraska? Did you see what they did in volleyball last night?
Dude, that was incredible.
So I told you about Trev Alberts, the athletic director at Nebraska.
He's kind of a serious guy. Did you guys see the
That's
camera
my
shots?
dude. I love that dude.
Dude was very serious last night.
So I ask you again, what if Matt Rule makes it USC, Oregon? Well, Oregon doesn't win big games, so screw them.
Because it's garbage.
What if the Big Ten becomes USC, Washington, thank you. USC, Washington, Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, and then Nebraska steps up. What if, and I know this is crazy, what if the bad juju falls off of Penn State and all of a sudden they start winning championships? What if the Big Ten gets to 7-8 teams that are really good? And the SEC and Lane Train figures it out at Ole Miss.
He ain't going to figure it out.
And what if somebody in Starkville, let's get crazy. No, wait. Let's get really crazy. What if somebody in College Station, after Jimbo gets bought out, actually starts winning games at A&M? And now let's get really crazy. What if Sarkisian actually wins the Big 12 for the first time in 7 million
It's the fucking
days?
vernal equinox.
Yeah, like the Earth, the moon. It was a blue moon last night. Once in a blue moon, Sark
did
is
pop
right.
any beers?
Think about it. It's not that far-fetched to think, 25, 30
Nobody's
teams in a
talking
conference.
about Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, dude.
What if Luke Fickell,
He can do it at Cincinnati. He can do it at Wisconsin, I assure you.
Hey, look at that. Look at that. Dennis Dodd reporting.
Guys.
Right on time, Dennis. Sources just told the ACC's president's call is rescheduled for tomorrow morning. Well, holy shit. Now we got to start the show over because Dennis is only an hour late.
Bro, can we get J.D. Wicker up on the program to confirm or deny Dennis Dodd's report here, man?
I love my guy. I do, man. Pat, we've been talking about... Anyway.
Hey, look here, man.
Your sources are slow, Dennis. If it was 2030, then I would believe FSU could do a buyout. I agree. I think that's exactly right. What's up, Raider Mark? Good to see you. Pew, pew. You guys covering in Laramie? Tell me, and I know that I'm crazy, clearly based on the first 38 minutes of this show.
Any comment that starts with, I know that I'm crazy, you know is going to be good.
Jake and I are diametrically opposed. So we're driving back from golf this morning.
Right.
And we're talking about Texas Tech and Wyoming because we have no lives.
Guys.
We're sitting in the family truckster, right?
Right.
Driving down from Park City after we played tremendous golf.
Do you know what that's like these days?
No, because I don't play tremendous golf. And we're talking about Texas Tech and Wyoming, and Jake's like, dude, they're gonna cover. They're winning the game. I'm like, have you been? No, it doesn't. It's Wyoming. It's fucking Wyoming. What are they gonna do? Are there receivers running down the field on Mustangs? No. That's at SMU, sir. Does Texas Tech cover in Laramie?
Yes.
Does Prime shock the world at TCU?
No.
No.
No,
he doesn't.
Well, shocking the world would be losing by 14 instead of 35.
There's my guy, Boss Frog.
There he is.
For $10. JP Morgan Chase is helping FSU explore funding from institutional investors to raise the capital. A potential investor has expressed interest, according to sources, on the 24th floor of 383 Madison Avenue.
Wow.
Let's do it. That's my guy, Boss Frog.
I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time.
The guy's moonroof is amazing.
It really is.
So let's pretend this happens. $120 million.
Then what?
So you give the ACC $120 million. Are they just going to hand you freedom? No, that $120 million is just the buyout. That doesn't mean you get out of your grant of rights.
You guys get that, right? Just if they pay the exit fee, that doesn't mean they get their distribution rights back.
No, it does not mean that. No, it does not. Thank you, Boss Frog. Always good to see you. Nate Simons, member of the show. Let's go.
Hang on.
Hey, man, can you pull it out? Come on, whip it out.
Let's go. Pulling it out.
Let's go. Let's go, you guys. Always good to see you.
Yeah, where are we at on the subscriber train?
Yeah, where are we at
man?
on the subscriber train?
Where are we at here, man?
We are at 849, 851. You guys were 149 away from 30,000.
Go.
149 away from 30,000.
Now, you guys know that our goal was 30,000 before NFL kickoff.
That was our goal.
So we're way ahead of schedule here. Can we get it done before Utah and Florida kicks off?
Yeah.